Okay, bonjour. So we're going to learn about indirect object pronouns. And once you've learned these pronouns, you've learned all of the pronouns that there are to learn. Because you've learned direct object pronouns in the beginning of the year, le, la, les, me, te, vous, and nous. You learned the pronoun en, which stands for a quantity, meaning roughly some, or of it, or of them. And you learned e, which means there or to that place. You know, it can have infinite meanings in terms of what place it refers to. That's what I mean. Any pronoun, I guess, has infinite meanings because it can refer to anything. But in any case, this is the last type of pronoun that you're going to learn. It's called an indirect object pronoun. Now, before I describe that, I'm going to go real quick and tell you about two different types of verbs that exist. Most verbs, well, there's actually three. Locomotive verbs don't take an object, so you learned about those this year. But another type of verb that is very common, most verbs take an object. So for example, if I say je mange, I'm eating, you could ask me, what are you eating? If I say je frappe, I'm hitting, you'd ask me, who are you hitting? And if I say j'adore, I love, you're going to say, well, who or what do you love? So most verbs answer a question, who or what. D'accord? So you could say je mange une pomme, I eat an apple, or je la mange, I'm eating it. You could say je frappe mon frère, I hit my brother, or je le frappe, I'm hitting him, or I hit him. And you can say j'adore mes amis, I love my friends, or je les adore, I love them. So that's the type of verb that is very, very common. It's the most common type of verb, and the type of pronoun that you learned in the beginning of the year, direct object pronouns, DOPs. D'accord? Now, there is another type of verb that's going to use an indirect object pronoun. So let's just real quick look at that a little bit. If I say to you, je donne, I'm giving, your first question is going to be what? Just like with any other verb. But what if I say, je donne un gâteau? I'm giving a cake. Your next question is going to be to whom. So there's a certain type of verb that also begs the question to whom or to what. So you could say, je donne un gâteau à mon frère. Let's be nice to him now since we weren't nice before. À mon frère. You could say, j'envoie une lettre. I'm sending a letter. All right, to whom? À mes parents, to my parents. And je parle, je parle, I speak. Now, what do you speak? You could speak English, for example, or French. You could speak words. D'accord? You could speak sentences. But usually we don't answer the question of what with speak because we know that we're speaking words and sentences and French or English. And we only actually answer the question of to whom. So, je parle à mon ami. D'accord? Now, this type of verb, it's taking this direct object, well, usually a direct object and sometimes an indirect object as well. Or in all of these, you want to know the indirect object of, well, who's benefiting from you giving a cake? Who's benefiting from you sending a letter? And who's benefiting from you speaking? Or who's are you speaking to? To whom are you speaking? Etc. C'est bon? So that's the type of verb. Now, the indirect objects there are to my brother, to my parents, and to my friend. So let's look at the French now and see how that changes. So let's look at some direct object sentences real quick. You've got she's kissing me. She's doing that directly to you. So you use what you learned already. Elle m'embrasse. Remember that me meant me. You could say, I didn't hit you, je ne t'ai pas tapé, and you're the one being directly acted upon. D'accord? And then you've got, I'm going to see him. D'accord? Je vais le voir. Le meant him or it. So those are all direct objects. So let's see how it changes with indirect objects. So let's say she's giving me a kiss. D'accord? If you want to say to me, you say me. And in fact, it's the same as you had before, me/m apostrophe. So it doesn't change. So why are we learning if it doesn't change? Well, you'll see. I sent you a text is also, if you want to say to you, I sent to you a text. Now, you might be like, wait a second, why would you say you or to you? Well, in English, we have two different ways. You can say she's giving me a kiss or she's giving a kiss to me. And whether or not you say that to depends on your word order. Whereas it's always an indirect object. D'accord? So I sent you a text. I sent a text to, that should say you, is going to be to. No matter what we decide to say in English, it's just the to in English. Again, why are we learning if it's the same? Well, here's where it's different. If you use the third person singular and you're going to say, I'm going to speak to him or to her, d'accord? You no longer use le, you use lui. And lui means more specifically to him or to her. So likewise, if you wanted to say she gave him a kiss, you would say elle lui donne un bisou. If you want to say I sent him a text or her a text, je lui ai envoyé un texto. So you've got this other word now that you have to worry about. Now, if it were new, it would stay new, and if it were vous, it would stay vous. But there's also for to him or to her, to them, um, that you've got the word leur as well to learn. So there is a little bit extra to learn. All right. So real quick, a direct object is the noun that the verb acts upon directly, and an indirect object receives the object or I don't know what that's going to be. From the, my blood sugar is going low. I may have to pause. It receives the object or the action of, that's not going to be action, but it receives the object. Oh, yeah, or the action of the subject. Cool. I like to think of it instead of it benefits in some way. Cool. In English, you'll notice that there's two possible word orders which I talked about already. So you say, je leur donne le gâteau. Let's say we're giving them the cake. That could be, I'm giving cake to them, or I'm giving them cake. It's both of those things. So let's look at the forms real quick. So to me or to myself. Now, all of these are going to have to because in English, we can say to him, to them, to me, etc. Although we don't necessarily always say it, depending on the word order. So the me is going to be the same as I taught you. The te is going to be the same. The nu and the vous are going to be the same as well. So you can go ahead and fill those in. Oops, not vous. Vous. But what's going to change is the le and la. You're going to use lui for to him, to her, or to it. You're going to use leur for to them. And then you've got ce. Ce is the same. But I won't test you on ce this year. You'll learn ce next year. All right, let's go and do. Oh, here's a list of verbs that belong to that class that they can take to objects. They take the direct object and the indirect object. So for example, to announce something to someone, to say something to someone, to write something to someone, to buy something for someone. So just have a look over those verbs. You'll notice that they all have that in common, that they have to do with communication or giving, typically. D'accord? All right, so let's do some practice. We're going to do just word order. So as a review of word order in simple sentences, you're going to have that indirect object in front of the verb. Je te dis, for example. Some of them have the negative. If you have a negative, the ne leads the verb phrase, and pas as your adverb goes after. So je ne te dis pas. But that's not this one. But I will write it over here just so you have it as a reference when you're doing your other ones. In modal sentences, you've got two verbs and the object goes before the infinitive verb in this case. So vous, oh, this one's tricky. I was going to put vous. We are speaking to you. I can check with the English. So nous allons parler. The vous is going to go in front of parler. D'accord? Now, this one in the negatives, the first verb is negated. So nous n'allons pas, we're not going to speak to you. The vous goes with the infinitive. So nous n'allons pas, that first part is negated, but then the vous parlez is separate. D'accord? All right, in a composed sentence, in other words, a past tense sentence, you're going to have, all right, so she phoned me, elle a téléphoné is your base sentence. The me goes in front of the it goes in front of the verb, not with the past participle. So that's the tricky thing. And then in the negative, with a negative, the ne leads the verb phrase. So elle ne m'a pas. Oh, sorry. And then the pas goes after the verb. I talked too quickly there. I'm going to get sugar as soon as this is over. All right, elle ne m'a pas téléphoné. You've got the ne goes before, it leads the verb phrase, it goes before even the indirect object, and then the pas comes after the verb. Don't give it to the pee-pee baby. Pee-pee baby is alone at the end. C'est bon? All right, go ahead and do your practice, and then check your answers in the Google Doc. Très bien.